No, NPR, struggling to pronounce someone's name isn't racist. Editors note the opinions in this article are the author's, as published by our content partner, and do not necessarily represent the views of MSN or Microsoft. 3 minority teenage girls taking part in NPR affiliate KUOW's Advanced Producers Workshop for Teenagers saw on how Americans have difficulties pronouncing their names, and how our collective failure to articulate foreign words makes them feel as people of color. The segment is titled, Names Are Important, of course. American adolescent. I have no idea what experiences of racial minorities are like. As a Jew, I can almost relate to the public radio teen trio. I came to the I had a lot of explaining to do every time a new teacher read my name off the roll. It was even worse when I announced this to my art teacher. He laughed. Previous English speakers tend to get lost in transliterated varietals of Cyrillic names. Remember trying if reading Dostoevsky might be too much for some of my new compatriots, it's only fair that I didn't get the North American cultural references. So it was up to my keeping my name meant, however, having to spell it every time I meet someone new. No big deal, really. Many Americans that's a trade-off. Those who want exotic names have to contend with some degree of confusion. If a woman can, one of the NPR teens cheerfully described her anxiety on the steps of a coffee shop because baristas never know how to spell and pronounce her name. She described another NPR student chirped about the clueless microaggression perpetuating teachers who pause when they see her name. Please see above. I am not complaining, actually. There is such thing. The MENA Plus public radio interviewees never had these problems. Their names are these girls get compliments like that all the time. I can guarantee that when American parents, even the most conservative ones, pick names for their kids, they look for something unusual, but not too long or too difficult to figure out. What the teens have, that chat they transmitted on the radio, should have stayed in a powder room. It was too trivial. The reason Americans have a difficulty with foreign names in the first place is our country's diversity. When society is, from my refugee perspective, I want Americans to be confident, culturally literate advisors, like my art teacher was to me. People like that help.